From America's beautiful coastal beaches to the hilltops of mountains far-reaching, or even the gorgeous look of red rock in the desert, to a nice, vibrant day in a buzzing major metropolitan city, Americans are talking, and well, they're working too. And no matter which way a state votes, we're all still Americans in this large country of 300 million people. So here today to bring you America's perspectives are Matt Curran, Javen Polson, Gabriela Escudero, and Michelle Ferretta on Coast to Coast Conversations.
Righty. Welcome everyone to another episode of Coast to Coast Conversations. If you can, like, follow, subscribe, the whole 9 yards on our YouTube, X, and if you have any comments live, feel free to put it on YouTube and we can put it up on the screen. And you can put it on X, but we're not able to put it up on our screen and answer it live from X. You can go to our YouTube page at C2C _network on the YouTube. Gabrielle, I like your pillow. I just now noticed that. Looks pretty good there, the little background and everything. And Javen, you're looking all fancy. And Michelle and I are just all cash over here. Just the
it's another day in Wisconsin today. That's cash.
And you look cash, yeah. Her background just looks fancier than.
I just came from an event. I had to run straight to my office from the event because I was gonna be late if I went home.
Well, now you gotta tell us what.
Oh, yeah, it is nice, isn't it?
Javen's like, I wouldn't dress like this for the podcast.
Yeah, it's more casual. I'd be a man of the people in the podcast.
Hey, Matt, in the audience too, I am monitoring our X chat. So if you guys want to pitch in on X, I'm here listening in, and we'll try and get you on.
You look like and sound like the guy Barney from How I Met Your Mother. You just got to suit up.
I've never seen the show before, but I've heard a lot about it. Dude. I know.
It's totally off topic. I wrote a paper about Barney in college, and I had to sell his playbook. So I wrote a whole paper on Barney and his.
Well, you're talking about Barney, the actual character, like the purple dance. Okay, that's funny because the actual character.
Is it Barney? What's his name?
Yeah. Barney is the guy in How I Met Your Mother, and then there's Barney, the purple dance. Okay, I was making sure we're on the same page. Let's make sure I'm saying it.
No, the How I Met Your Mother. It was the character. Yeah, the character Barney. You had me questioning myself for a second. I love that show and that character too. He was a great character.
He was, and we had some great characters at confirmation hearings the last couple of days. I think we'll just start off with a clip from Adam Schiff, also known as Pencil Neck, with going and the whole Liz Cheney thing. So we'll play that really quick and. Let's get some reaction.
Are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me
to
investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president has
We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has called for this.
You know what we should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
California right now is through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president?
Do you have the power to say no to the president? Jay, I'm going to start with you because I know you love Liz Cheney and everything. So,
I love people who stand up for what they believe in. That's what I love. I just think it's kind of rich. They're finally asking about the weaponization of the Justice Department as soon as their guy is leaving office. They weren't asking that question 1 year ago. It's happening now. It's a fair question to ask, and I can see why they're asking that question in relation to Trump. Because I mean, he hasn't been hiding it. He said he's going to go after his enemies and people who have done it wrong. We get that. And if you follow his Twitter, I'm sure you've seen things he tweeted recently, especially. I think, it's a fair question for what her job is. And I think she answered it pretty well we have more issues to worry about. So why are you asking about Liz Cheney? We have China, our number one enemy right now. We have a war in Russia. We have the FBI going after moms and dads. We have the weaponization of that. So it's other things we should be worried about. So I think that's something that truthfully, Matt, shouldn't have to be asked, but I get why it's asked.
I mean, I get some of your point. For one person, though, but nobody asked Merrick Garland about whether they were going to go after Donald Trump, Michelle.
No, I think it's kind of one. I'm glad to hear that they're finally recognizing that the weaponization of DOG is happening. I just think that, remember, when they are pointing a finger, they've generally got three pointing right back at them. And a lot of times we are finding out that they are projecting the things that they are doing internally in order to try and say, well, nope, the Republicans are doing it. Nope, the Attorney General's doing it. But they're really the ones behind the scenes doing it. And you had mentioned about the moms. They're going after moms. They're going after, school groups and churches and people that are against abortion. It they're the ones that have been weaponizing it for the last 4 years. So it's just nice to see that they're finally recognizing it's happening.
Yeah, definitely. I think Pam Bondi, when I'm looking at this hearing, I'm so glad we have Pam Bondi. She was totally sharp. She was able to zing it back at Adam Schiff in so many different ways. She has experience as Attorney General. I'm just glad it's not Matt Gaetz. I do think when this question comes up, and Javen and Gabriella or whoever might agree with me on this, if this question was asked of Matt Gaetz, it would feel like, yeah, he's going to go after Liz Cheney. For some reason, I don't get that vibe from Pam Bondi just answering the question. She's going to be very pointed at Adam Schiff, right? She wears the red jersey, but I don't feel. I feel like it's going to be okay.
Why don't you think she answered it?
Why don't I think she answered it? Why don't I think she answered it? I mean, she seemed like she answered like she was a. She didn't not answer it, so that's part of it, right? If a non-political answer is sometimes an answer, because if because politically, if she says she is, she's damn. If she doesn't, she's damn. It seems to me they're just going to let this die out, and they're not going to do anything. That's the answer I got from it.
I want to say Gabrielle does have a good point there. I didn't really see her answer in either. I mean, did Schiff specify, are you going to go after her for Jan 6th? I don't think he specified that. Because, I mean, if he didn't specify that, then my answer would have been hers as well. But if the question was, are you going to go after her because Jan 6th? The answer should be yes or no. It should be yes or no thing. But I get if that was the question, why no is not an answer, because you don't want to accept your new boss. But no, that's a good point. I wonder why she didn't answer that. It seems like a simple question, but also you have to ask the same question when it comes to Supreme Court justices. You would think most answers are black and white, but they don't really give answers. They usually do. It's based on the case study, which is fair because law is very complicated.
I was going to say case by case, right?
Exactly.
We have a comment on YouTube that said, Matt, what are your thoughts on the theory Gaetz was never the real pick to begin with? And I'm sad that he asked about Matt, because I'm jumping in because I had this conversation this week and I absolutely believe that it was a strategic play, because I really think that Gaetz was not his first pick, and Bondi is a badass woman and I think she holds her own as, twice the AG in Florida, as the very first woman attorney general in Florida as well too. The things that she was on Trump's defense team. So I think she was the pick, and I think it was a game of chess, and I think he really just wanted to get him out. But I don't know how that'll turn out. So we'll see. That's, I guess, a stay tuned on if Gaetz is still going to be a member of Congress or not.
I don't think he's been a member of Congress. Look, if you remember back in 2020, on the way out, Matt Gaetz was petitioning Trump for pardon, and Trump didn't give him a pardon. And this is early on when all those ethic things were going around. I think Trump is loyal to people who are loyal to him. It's a two-way street. But you got to also do what's politically good for you. And I think this was an out for Gaetz. I didn't see it at the time. At the time, I thought, man, I really hope not. It comes off as a slime ball to me. We've talked about this before. The constant talking about wet dreams on Sean Hannity and the comments like that. And I've got friends who have who can confirm things with him. And it's just it's not a good place to be in when you're Matt Gaetz, but I think this was a good move for both of them to try to finagle their way out, for Matt Gaetz to get out of Congress and for Trump to get who he wants, because that ethics report was released. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was released even when he was out of Congress, right? Technically, like, you don't typically release ethic reports to those who have left Congress. It's only for sitting members. This person says, I agree with Michelle. It outed rhinos early and make Bondi looks like a very reasonable pick. Yes, Bondi. I wanted Pam Bondi from the very beginning. I told these guys backstage, and I wish I had gotten this on record. Pam Bondi's a good pick. She was loyal to him, even in that 2020 case, as far as the electors and filing all that in 2020. So she is.
And on a totally superficial topic, Gabriella can back me up on this. I hope to God at 60 I look as good, or almost 60 I look as good as her, because wow.
Whoa, she's 60 years old?
She's 60. She's 59, Matt. She's
Damn.
59. I know.
I'm not gonna lie, she does look good for 60. Man, if you notice, it's starting now that the attractive women on the Republican, they're just more attractive on the Republican side than the liberal side. I'm just throwing that out there. Just in general, I've just noticed that.
We're on the right
Mark
side of
Cuban eat
Michelle.
his words.
What did Mark Cuban say?
I was saying Trump's making Mark Cuban eat his words when he said that Trump doesn't surround himself with beautiful people, beautiful women rather.
Oh, he hasn't just surrounded people. He's surrounded a movement with beautiful people. So just throwing that out there.
I was gonna say, did you guys see that video? Because you said earlier about people who are loyal to him, right? And so I watched this video. I don't know if you guys saw it, but it's RFK. Basically, he's suing. He had been suing like Trump for 2 different things, and Trump offers his plane to him anyways, and they're still friends, but they keep like business and friendship separate, and they know that they're going through like lawsuits or whatever, but they have to like learn to keep it separate. And he's like, I have to do that or else I wouldn't talk to anyone. And so it's so true. Like he has had to learn how to really separate both, right? And I think he's done a great job at that.
I think that was RFK Jr. who told that story.
Yes.
No, who was it that recently? Was it a president that said that if you disagree with me 80% of the time, there's still that 20% of the time that we can work together on something? There was a quote that came out this week. I'm gonna have to find it. But it was brilliant. Now I can't remember it off the top of my head. But Gabriella, it just, that when you had said that makes a good point. You don't have to agree all the time.
That's right. That might have, for all we know, it could have been Jimmy Carter with everything going around. All right, the next one, to stay on track, is the Tim Kaine and Hegseth exchange. So I'll go ahead and play that clip here.
Turn to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime? That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, I'm not a perfect person, not claiming to be.
But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior.
Redeemed by his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Okay. Off the top, Javen, I know this is a pretty hot topic for you. So give us your thoughts off the top here.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see why it's relevant, your personal life, when it comes to this with being Secretary of Defense. I mean, I get he's trying to tie marriage loyalty to country. I mean, those are two separate things. And also, if Congressman Kane, the failed VP pick for Hillary Clinton, if you looked around the room, he'd be sitting around a lot of people who shouldn't be in that seat because of what they've done in same exact thing, probably worse than what Pete Hegseth said. Now, I'm not this big fan of Pete Hegseth, but I'm gonna call a spade when I need to call it. And this is one of those times. I mean, he's just trying to find something to grasp. And it's so funny because I'm scrolling through Instagram Reels and I'm seeing everybody, oh, Tim Kaine destroys Pete. Pete can't respond to this question because Tim destroys him. It's funny. It's also funny because I'm saying I don't remember because I was a baby, but I know this for a fact that when Bill Clinton was running for re-election, you'll never guess who supported President Clinton after the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. Any guesses? Senator Kaine. You're right. He endorsed him and he said, no, there is no issue with this character. There's nothing like that. He's still qualified to be president of the United States. So I'd love to know what changed from the highest office in the land to Secretary of Defense.
It's funny you mentioned the Clinton thing, 'cause I was going to mention that too. But I think the Lewinsky scandal is what ultimately sort of changed politics as far as the moral decor, right? The Democrats, if that impeachment, just claiming, oh, it's just sex, and there used to be this moral thing of like, hey, a marriage is marriage. Like Tim Kaine is given what the Republicans were giving in the 90s, and there was this idea of like, hey, if you're going to be loyal to your community, you bring that loyalty. That is something of consideration, whether it's your marriage, whether it's to a group, whether it's to your family, whatever, right? But now it's kind of like, well, if everyone's doing it, we're all doing it. That's not really a good thing, all right? And that's what George W. Bush ran on in 2000. If you remember what knocked John McCain out in the 2000 primary with George W. Bush, which was, who is your number one influencer, George W. Bush? He sat back in his chair and goes, my number one influencer is Jesus Christ, right? There was more Christianity in politics, and George W. Bush ran on restoring what's it called? Morality and integrity to the White House because of what Clinton did. But now the new standard is, well, Trump's kind of done it, Clinton kind of does it. And I think the senator of Oklahoma kind of gets into that. To me, I don't, and plus, if you look at the Hegseth charges, they're not, yeah, he had an extramarital affair, but he didn't do anything illegal. He didn't rape anybody. Those are two different things, immoral and something that's illegal. And Hegseth obviously doesn't want to get into that.
And at the end of the day, aren't we all sinners anyway? And at the end of the day. Now, I also want to point out so Kaine and the Democrat Party are also the ones that went to the White House topless, if you remember, 2 years ago, as well as made an adult rated movie on Congress's floor, if you also remember that. So spare me the high horse that they have gotten up on about how clean their hands are. And like I had said before, remember when you point a finger, you've got 3 pointed right back at you, and he is not clean. He does not have clean hands in this.
Yeah, I hate how they have to bring this to his business life, your personal life. And I get it if you were like doing something where it was like you're a mass murderer or something like that, right? But if you're having problems in your marriage, and that's just something so personal, and I get it about image, right? I get that we want to look good and we want but I think that is not fair that they'll take any little personal thing like that to bash someone on such a personal matter. I don't think that's right. I don't see that being right. But I get that people, especially because I'm a Christian, and so probably right now, if the people that I know would be listening to me, they'd be like, I cannot believe she said that. But we're like Michelle said, and like I think we've all agreed, we're not perfect. We are, and even he said it, I have been judged by my Lord and Jesus Christ, my Savior, and it's so true, because what about like the things that people do behind the scenes, right? Like people are not perfect. And so it's like, man, imagine that we bring something personal about you, sir, and we just blast it out to everyone like that. Something so touchy, right? Like your spouse or something like that, or I don't know.
Well, okay, two things. One, it is fair for Tim Kaine, I think, to bring these things up. I don't think it's not fair to bring these things up. You're going to be serving, especially if you were going for the Supreme Court, sort of a lifetime thing. I think there is something in understanding the morality of a person, because the morality shows virtue and virtue shows decision making. So you need to have a good understanding of a grasp of the person you're going to confirm for 4 years, lifetime. And so if you want to find the virtuous person and hire someone based on virtue, then you got to kind of know some of the morality decisions they make, right? And whether they're going to be loyal to a pledge in marriage. Now, I think, again, Tim Kaine is by all means fair to ask it in today's day and age, because we have all of these divorces happening. It's kind of like it's everywhere. It's like, Tim Kaine's got a log in his eye after running with Hillary. So yeah, if you do the comparison game, Tim Kaine has nothing. I do wish we can get back to the pre
I guess it's not like a
era.
fair. I guess to me, it's not like a fair thing, as in like, oh hey, I wouldn't vote for you for that. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like that doesn't.
Yeah, and Gabriella, I have to agree with you. And Matt, I have to disagree with you. While I agree that morality, he's the Secretary of Defense. Him cheating on his wife doesn't have anything to do with what he will do in his business. Now, is his life messy, and does that sometimes cross over to your business life? Unfortunately, yes. But if you can separate it, and you did separate it, and you are a changed man, we all grow. We all have things that we may not be proud of that we have done in our younger years, and not to defend some of the accusations that are against him with the whole strip club thing. I remember not way back, a short couple decades ago, it was common practice in sales that they wrote movies and they make jokes about it, is that you would wine and dine folks at a strip club, or you have a couple libations, and not to like defend him, but to defend him, absolutely. To defend him. He may have gone there, so what? It doesn't mean you can't defend our country.
Right, but there's still a point to what you want, like a large swath of people doing. Okay, so obviously you guys could say it, you disagree because you're like, okay, hey, it doesn't matter. Well, obviously it matters. Polling data, there's a good swath of America that doesn't, that still matters and cares about it. Otherwise, Mark Robinson wouldn't have gotten slaughtered for his Pornhub comments. Donald Trump grabbed the Hollywood Access tape, wouldn't have been released if nobody cared about it. Why do they release it?
He's the president, and that's what I mean. Like it's like it doesn't matter, because I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It absolutely, of course. I mean, if there was a better option and he was probably not cheating on the wife, I probably would vote for them, right? But what I'm saying is, like, look at Trump. Like, I mean, how all the things that have been brought up on him and everything, and he's the president. You know what I mean? So, what's the difference here? I guess.
With Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, like I mean, like I know I get what you're saying, because as a person, I would like to vote for obviously as well character, value, and all that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if the person is qualified, they're the best qualified person, and this is something they did, right? That shouldn't disqualify them in my eyes. My opinion.
Okay, so there's two things. There's Matt's wishful thinking of, I wish we could get back to the 90s, and then there's the reality of today, which is none of this stuff is an eye for an eye. So at this point, you're gonna have to go based on your guys' opinion is the populist opinion of the United States right now. Like, it doesn't matter what the sex or the marital affair is, can he do the job? And so if I was a U.S. senator, I'd vote to confirm him. Pete Hegseth is going to make a great Secretary of Defense. I would like to get back to the point of the pre-1990s where we could judge someone a little bit more on their morality and their issues, because that shows higher character. And if you're going to be in the military, I really want people with high character. Now,
Matt, don't make me go to the Bible. We're gonna go to King David right now.
I mean, I understand, like, people can be redeemed and all this stuff, but there's still an idea of trust, and you want good moral people running your country, state, local communities. Otherwise, they're only called scandals if it shocks people. Okay, and
you're in the military, and I laugh. Have you ever been in the barracks with the? Have you ever seen? the kids in the barracks and the different pranks and the different things that they do. You know, I and Pete had mentioned, and he had said something, and this is where I really like what you were going with this, Matt, is he had said at the end of World War II, we had 4 4-star generals, and now we have 44. We reward failures with stars, and we need a bottom-up solution, and that really it I love that with that moral clause, because when we can do that bottom up solution, and if we can build upon that on our military, that moral clause and that higher standing to get it back to those types of, you know, home foundations, I think we'll be in a much better place in the long run. Does that make sense? Javen, you look like you've been waiting to say something.
Javen, are you muted?
I cannot hear you.
I will say that in the military, if you commit adultery, you do face penalties. So I get it's fair that you'd want the highest person in that rank to have the same standards as you, but of course, two different things. But all in all, I would say I agree with Matt when it comes to we need to have someone who has morality. But when it comes to like say the affair thing, it shouldn't be a disqualifying. It should not be a disqualifying event that makes them not get the job. Like if you can do your job, I'm happy. Again, I'm going to note I'm not a fan of Pete Hegseth being Secretary of Defense. He's a Fox News guy. I don't get why he qualified for this job, but hey.
Well, like,
so now you're the opposite.
But this is why I believe that, Matt, because I feel like we don't know what was happening in the marriage. I mean, are we going to investigate like who was the evil one? Are we going to investigate like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's where it gets me, where I'm like, I don't know. What if she was evil to him? You know, like what? I don't know. So that's where it's like, well, was it because he was like messed up and he really like has an evil heart, or you know? So I don't know. That's like,
Look, I'm not saying every person gets divorced should never have a position ever again and all that stuff. Look, a lot of this is upstream from culture, and so from my perspective, the people that when I want to change culture, make it a more virtuous place, I can't go and do it through government. It's kind of going not to go into abortion, but going to an abortion as an example. Like just passing laws and banning it across the country ain't gonna fix it. You got to change the culture. And you got to change hearts and minds. And in order to change hearts and minds, or if we want to get more virtuous people in there, we got to change hearts and minds and the way people live. So that's how it is. And then to this person's point, 82 Mag, yeah, was it a one-time mistake or repeated behavior? That's very important, right? I believe people can change and for the better. So yeah, I'm always willing to give people a second chance too. That's not a total disqualifier if you did something bad. All right, we're at 30 minutes. Do we want to move on to the farewell address? Unless anyone else has anything else they want to say on Hegseth. Okay. All right. Can I get a motion? Oh, sorry. Just natural habit. All right. Biden fact checking. This is the short reel on him during his farewell address last night. Play now.
Social media is giving up on fact checking. The truth is smothered by lies, told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, and our very democracy from the abuse of power.
Hold these people abuse from power with Facebook and stuff. Any comments off the top?
I mean, I'd say he's not wrong.
He's got 3 putting back at him. Javen, sorry, go ahead.
No, man, that's kind of what I was going to start with, but no, you started off for me. I mean, he's not wrong when it comes when he holds his media accountable, but however, I do have this line with private companies and the government get involved in that. For example, Twitter, that's the government, Elon, that's Elon's company, leave it alone. Now, with these public companies, I'm not sure if there's any public social media companies, but if there are, I get the government being involved through the SEC and NASDAQ. I get that in the board of directors because there's laws that need to be kept there for stockholders and stakeholders' welfare. But yeah, it's just rich that after COVID, when his White House was telling Facebook what to say and what to take down, he now wants to talk about social media and their fact checking. So it's something that, again, you talk about it as soon as the new guy's coming, but when it was your turn, you'd be like, oh, it wasn't happening.
Yeah, I look at social media kind of like as a newspaper, right? You can't really regulate it, but like, what's the public TV network? PBS, right? Like, okay, there's going to be rules around it, or like how Trump had to get fair time on NBC, whatever, because they had Kamala Harris show up for Saturday Night Live right before the election, and right because they had some sort of public dollars tied to it. That I can get, and I will say this: this is the only difference between social media and those, as far as regulation. I'd be for that they do in Europe for minors who are not 18 and haven't achieved full like if a state wants to be like, hey, at 16, 17, our little society, we don't want it's abusive to kids, predators go on there. That's fine to me, but you can't regulate it for anyone 18 or older who are voting adult citizens. So that and this whole idea of like regulating too, like I don't know if you guys seen, and we should have gotten the tape with Zuckerberg talking on Joe Rogan about how he was approached multiple times by the Biden administration to regulate things during COVID. Whether you agree with the COVID vaccine and all that crap and stuff, at the end of the day, you should let the American people debate it and discuss it amongst themselves and not have this censorship being forced by government. Like, I don't want government, to Javen's point, coming in and telling private sectors, regulate this, don't regulate that. It kind of feels like it actually might go against, what's that Supreme Court ruling? What it was like 5-4, the one Hillary Clinton always complained about with campaign finance law, which is basically
Citizens
at one
United.
point, what's that?
Citizens United?
Yeah, it's Citizens United, right? Where, okay, well, it was like 30, prior to Citizens United, it was like 30, 60 days before an election. Corporations had to zip it. They couldn't say anything political. That's it, right? So I'm just going to use Big Tobacco as an example. They might support candidate X, and then Big Tobacco has to zip it 60 days before an election. To me, Citizens United got it correct, right? You can't tell companies and you can't tell people and certain entities that they have to be quiet. Like, they can just speak however they want. And that's kind of the same thing for Facebook because it violated the First Amendment. So government telling Facebook what to do violates the First Amendment. What telling them they must censor this, they must not censor that. And honestly, they should have been brought into court over this.
Yeah, I first of all, social media, don't get me started with social media. So they want to, Joe Biden wants to talk about freedom of speech, and I feel like that's just really restraining us to have freedom of speech. I mean, it's really due to social media that we've learned so much, that we've been able to just learn, like even through the elections, right? Like, I come from really hearing like, hey, you should be a Democrat, or you should whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter what party you're in, whatever you grow up listening to, right? But when you have the opportunity to see both sides and hear and do your own research, which a lot of it is done through social media, it's insane. And so anyways, when he came out and talked about fact checking, it just reminded me like how much my content was restricted as a social media creator. I realized just how bad it is on Instagram and Facebook to just even reach anyone. And it changed a lot from when it first started in 2020. There was not a lot of regulation. And so now on TikTok, I get so many more views. I mean, I will get like 5 to 10 times more views than Instagram or Facebook. And I hate that because I want to not be on TikTok, but it's like they're the ones that are pushing my content. And so it's a bittersweet feeling because I understand the importance of data and all that. But anyways, just with the whole fact checking thing, I hope that it helps in not like restricting content creators as well, because I realized that that was really hurting people as well.
No, that makes perfect sense too. And what do y'all think about this comment here? It brings up a good point. It's between libel and this idea of like sort of a free market enterprise of newspapers and stuff. I mean, publishers, right? In between publishers and like a free speech newspaper. It would have to depend on the content. So like, I don't believe in like censoring. Like, Facebook doesn't ever put anything out, right? They're not like a publisher where like we publish this. They're just giving a platform for someone else to publish.
Yeah.
So you would almost have to go after the individual who's on the platform, who's publishing it, that's going after and tearing somebody else's name down, right?
I mean, look at the recent case with George Stephanopoulos against Trump when he falsely said that Trump was convicted of rape, but it wasn't. It was assault. he got sued, or ABC got sued, and they won the case. For me, I think it's looking at who's saying it. For someone like George Stephanopoulos, someone who's a trusted voice, I can get why libel applies there. But if Mo Schmo on Facebook said that, I doubt they'll have a case, because you got to look at the audience there and look at who they influence, and if their influence has that gravitas as someone like George Stephanopoulos would.
Well, Javen, if you remember, there was a gentleman who spent time in jail during the 2020 election because he retweeted a tweet that said, if you want to vote for Hillary Clinton, you can now dial this number to text or to make your vote. And it was just a play. It was just a meme that this guy sent out, and he was convicted of like election interference by the Clinton campaign, and he was jailed for it.
What was did he have a big influence and following?
No, he was just a random Joe Schmo guy. Let me look it up here while we discuss, and I'll put it in our chat here. But to Madge's point, yes, I agree that the publishers can be responsible for the false info, but so can, to your point, Matt, so can the person. So you have to be careful about what you say, but at the same time, we do have the First Amendment right to free speech, and I don't think that these platforms should be controlled by the government. We saw it all too well during COVID when ivermectin was banned, when real doctors that spoke out against the media, against these social media platforms as well, trying to get the information out, they were silenced. So if anything is to come of this in the future, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the history behind it, what actually went on, and how deep has our government really been on these social media platforms, because I believe that it goes a lot deeper than what we are, the surface level.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because when COVID happened, I remember same thing. That's when I started creating content, and it was a lot of the whole COVID that was being fact checked, and it was being controlled by government. And so people were believing whatever was being put out. And I think that's when it becomes dangerous that something like that could happen, because we saw everything that came behind that. So when government can really take control like that through platforms where everyone is on, because that's what we do now, it can be very dangerous, because you're literally shutting people up and saying, oh, that's not what we're going to put out. We're going to put this out. So that's scary.
Yeah. First, thank you, Cedric and 82 Maj. I want to say back to what Michelle was saying. We're rewinding back to COVID. My stance on that whole big thing of the whole false information and censoring stuff is the government cannot shield people from their own stupidity. If people want to be stupid, let them be stupid. If they want to get their information from Uncle Tom, that's Uncle Joe on Facebook. from Uncle Joe on Facebook, do that. That's perfectly fine with me. But now, if someone like, I don't know, George Stephanopoulos is out there saying something about the vaccines that are not true, then I get why we need to hold him accountable. But we can't be we can't be censoring everybody if it's a freedom of speech thing, as you're talking about, Michelle. And then I love that 82 Mage goes research for us. We appreciate that. That helps us a lot.
Data. I love data. I don't know who you are, Madge, but you sound like somebody I could have a beer with, because I go deep into that data hole. So back over, Javen, the gentleman's name was Douglas Mackey, and he was sentenced to 7 months in prison for his meme. And his meme was basically just said that he save your vote, or don't wait in line, avoid the line, vote from home, text Hillary in 2016, jailed for 7 months.
Jeez. Wow. Well, that's not good. Well, speaking of those who have the power to put you in jail, Biden thinks there's an oligarchy out there. So we will play this quick little clip and go from there for our next discussion.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. We see the consequences all across America, and we've seen it before. More than a century ago, but the American people stood up to the robber barons back then and busted the trusts. They didn't punish the wealthy. They just made the wealthy play by the rules everybody else had to. Workers want rights to earn their fair share. You know, they were dealt into the deal, and it helped put us on a path to building the largest middle class, the most prosperous century any nation in the world has ever seen. We've got to do that again. In the last 4 years, that is exactly what we've done. People should be able to make as much as they can, but play by the same rules. Pay their fair share of taxes.
Pay their fair share of taxes. I feel like the left and Biden's just leading it. It's just stuck in the past with these same talking points. Fair share of paying your taxes is over as far as like that as a talking point. You know, Trump's come along, we've realigned it. What this election and the next election, I believe, will set us up for the next 20, 30 years for the next arguments of things. As far as these oligarchies, I mean, he's the guy who literally gave a Medal of Freedom badge to somebody last week. It was George Soros. Somebody's giving him money. Kamala Harris collected $1 billion in this campaign. He had like a big war chest to give her. So spare me the details on the oligarchy thing.
Look, so his fair trade comment, I mean, I agree. Everyone should, of course, my definition is different. Everyone should pay their fair share. Personally, I think everyone should pay the same, a flat tax, percentage-wise. But also, I mean, Trump's kind of taking the same approach when he's talking about fair trade. So fair tax, fair trade. I get Trump's talking about our foreign trade, but it's kind of the same principle. But also, I've kind of been saying the same thing Biden's been saying in these past 2 years. I do believe that we're slipping back into that robber baron era where those top businesses and those top corporations are controlling a lot of things. I don't think Biden's done much to stop that at all. I think he's enabled it because most of these top corporations are getting a lot of government subsidies. So I don't think he's doing much to stop it. But I don't think Biden. I don't think Trump's gonna work to stop it either. And honestly, I think the whole Elon things. We'll get to TikTok. Hopefully, that's not topic there. But I mean, I kind of agree with Biden. I think we are going through that robber baron thing. I don't think it's a left. I don't think it's a Democrat or a Republican thing. I think it's just a crony capitalism thing that we're living in, and we're going to see a lot more these next few years, unfortunately, I believe.
But are there enough super
let me
duper
interrupt
rich
real quick.
people?
Who is Robert Barron?
So I would say for years it has been big pharma. Look at COVID. I mean, they got so much money to go out there and market to people that no matter who you are, no matter your medical history, this vaccine's for you. And that's terrible. The government was paying them to do that, and the government was helping them do that at the same time. We have banks. We saw that Biden's administration, they capped the fees on credit card bills. Trump was in favor for that too, because these banks were overcharging fees on customers. Actually, Amex just paid a $280 million lawsuit because they were tricking small businesses into getting loans that they didn't need. So we have the government propping up these corporations to then go and be more anti-competition, even though both parties say they're for competition. So it's just the government. Like Reagan said, the government's not the solution, it's the problem. Let the market solve the problem.
Here.
Yes.
But who's Robert Barron? he said 100 years ago, Robert Barron.
Yeah.
And I have searched and searched. I have no idea who
okay.
100-year-old Robert Barron is.
Okay. I get. Okay. So Robert Barron was a term used to talk about the elite. So like J.P. Morgan at the time, Andrew Carnegie, the Vanderbilts. Those were those who were in the 1% that controlled everything. I mean, everything went through them: politics, society, and they had their hands in everything when it comes to politics. So those are really talking about robber barons. Like they dictated everything.
Okay, so it's
I mean, but that's how. So that's how it started, though. The United States, Javen, as you're saying that, and it started with railroad, with steel, all that, and they created a tax system, a tax code system, and if you know how to play by the rules, then you know how to overcome the taxes because they know how to play by the game. So not everyone does, you know. You have to literally learn how the tax code works, and if you destroy that, you really destroy the American freedom, the ability to really be free in a sense where the government's going to be able to charge you taxes for anything that they want. And so it wouldn't even benefit them because it wouldn't benefit, like he's talking about you're saying the term robber baron, from all the people like Carnegie and all of them. Well, they actually came up with all of this. Who is it? The one, the brothers, what's his name? His name is just left me, but the Rockefellers, they own everything. They came up with all of this, you know, the federal, anyways, it's all tied with the Federal Reserves and everything. So I agree with you, Jabin, and government, the more they get involved, the less that we have control, the more they have control. That's not good. And that's how a president can really become a dictator, or the government can really dictate a country. And so that's what I believe the true American freedom is having the ability to work for yourself, build a business. You literally can build an entity thanks to all the different tax codes. So yeah, I don't see that happening.
I'll say for our listeners, any history buffs out there, I want to see if you know this. A little trivia: which president took on the robber barons? Which president went to bust out these big banks? I don't know if anyone knows that.
I'm gonna guess. Was it Andrew Jackson?
It was not Andrew Jackson.
Eisenhower.
Who?
Eisenhower.
Nope. I will give you a hint, Matt. So I imagine Matt will know this as I give him a hint. National parks.
Oh, Theodore Roosevelt. Yeah.
Roosevelt.
That's all you had to say. Actually, that does make sense. Theodore would do that.
And it's funny because he was a progressive conservative, more progressive when it came to the national parks, but also when it came to these monopolies. So he's a president I look up to, and he was a tough guy, a little tough Rough Rider.
But that's where I believe the government can empower a monopoly. However, and that's where it becomes a monopoly, and that's where it becomes a problem. So, you know, Joe Biden is talking about this problem is because the government gets involved, but when they're not involved, then it becomes a market, a free market, and that's when it just works on its own, you know. So,
and there are times and places I feel like to break up a monopoly, but as far as like a business, maybe in a what's that?
Utilities, ROFR.
Like utilities.
Fighting it right now.
Come on.
Woo! They are bringing it back up. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent and I'm getting off topic, but they are bringing it back up in our Wisconsin legislature. The utilities are pushing them now, and makes me so angry. Okay, carry on.
No, I was like, there'll be times, but then they don't break up the proper things. Right, they'll let other things go, like big social media probably should have been broken up, or like these big tech companies that are getting probably too big. Because what does Google have? Like 75% of the search market. At some point, they were talking about that. But the Federal Trade Commission, look, there's a local grocery store here named Food Lion. Okay, they won't let them buy out 5 of these little buy lows, this grocery chain, because you'd have a monopoly. I'm like, are you kidding me? You're gonna stop grocery chains from consolidating in 2 little counties, this big grocery chain that's all up and down the East Coast, from buying 5 because it'd be a monopoly. We're not gonna break up big tech. Like, and Food Line didn't do anything. This is just grocery stores. I don't know if Biden's speech on State of the Union going after big snacks had anything to do with it, but it could have. It could have had that.
Well, and to your point, Matt, what is it? The 5 biggest companies own the world anyway. You know, you look at BlackRock, you look at we'll just pick
McDonald's and
McDonald's is owned by a parent company who is
Right.
owned by another parent company. You know, you go to a food chain, for example, those smaller food chains, and you think you're going to a mom and pop, but you're really going through one of the Red Lobster chains, even though you're going to a chicken house. Or, you know, they all have there's like 5 companies that rule the world.
And to 82's point, I was about to bring this up as well, is you look at the TikTok ban, that was probably, I can remember, the most recent time Congress actually regulated something. What they usually do is they say, okay, this new entity, social media, is now getting regulated by this administrative executive branch department. So they can say, my hands are clean, but this branch is going to regulate it. And then that department then creates these boards, which are made up of people from this industry. So that's a good point. H2 has a point I was going to bring up there, is that Congress is not doing their job. They're giving their job to the executive branch and the administrative state, which they should not be doing.
And I want to say this too: if you're a member of Congress, and this is what member of Congress does after they pass all this and do exactly what Javen says, they go back to their districts and like, well, I signed a letter, and I got 3 of my other colleagues, and we signed this evil letter, and we told him we're going to bring him in for a hearing. And we're going to ask him questions on camera, and they're going to become reels on social media, and that'll show them, and we'll stir up public opinion. Yeah. Okay. I never see outside of that. That's the worst that ever happens to these people, is that great. So now we send people to Congress to sign letters, to send it to the FDA, the FTC director, whoever, and nothing happens. That's it. That's literally it. Nothing happens. So if you want to run to sign letters, run for Congress, because you're not actually doing anything. They think
And
that's how you
also,
regulate.
Look, after they leave office, look where they go. They're probably going on a board for some company. I mean, I'm not to pick on the guy, but the one I could think of is John Boeing. After he left, he went to go work for a big tobacco company.
Yeah, R.J. Reynolds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
Yeah, came and worked with my former employer, but he only did that, and he worked at big weed companies too. He went and worked because he was trying to make that a whole big push as well. So yeah, Paul Ryan's on Fox News board, and right now he's on MSNBC not NBC, NBC as a host. Look, I get it. You go up there, you network. I'm not mad if you go get a job somewhere, right? Or go get a board. What I am mad about, and this goes to A2 Maj's point, when Congress does send it over to the executive branch to regulate it, the people they pick to regulate it come from those industries. Okay, I can't tell you how many times when I was at Reynolds, when we would talk about FDA policy, somebody would say the following when we'd have a conversation talking about regulation. Oh, but don't worry. 3 of our guys who used to work over here, one of our guys was a CFO, and he worked all around the world. Now he works at so-and-so at the FDA, or he worked at Philip Morris, our competitor, so he understands the tobacco industry, but he might tilt that way. It felt great once. It's like, oh, my job's safe, whatever. But I deep down, I hated that. Okay, that's what, going back to Pete Hegseth, going back to Pam Bondi a little bit on her, and some of these other people that Trump picks from the total outside that are not in these industries and can look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. They can't be controlled, right? They don't have the experience. They don't have the network necessarily at that top level. So it's a true fresh pair of eyes that you can make damage with and freer decisions.
I gotta say, if you have HBO, you have to go watch Veep. That show will show you how Washington's like. There's an episode really when they're trying to regulate oil and gas, but the board is made up of people from the oil and gas industry. It's just so funny. I mean, you have to watch it.
All right. Well, do you want to play? We got about 5 minutes. I could play one of the TikTok reels, Michelle, if you want to.
Play the long one, the whole song. Play it.
Shoot. I don't know which one's the long run. I'm gonna take a guess and say it's this one.
Hiding racial tensions, the electoral college rigs elections, the crisis in the east, drugs in the food we eat. But if you're asking me, the biggest problem is TikTok. It's not global warming, it's not access to healthcare, welfare, boring, corruption at the top, citizens getting shot. Well, all that's
Do y'all
that
think?
on repeat all day. Can you tell?
Yeah. Do you think TikTok will be regulated on January 19th when it comes due, or will it be extended, Michelle?
It's going to be extended. I believe that there was a bill introduced to extend it 270 days right now, and they're just going to keep kicking it down the can because they are so angry right now because the Americans have been flocking to Red Note, where they are freely giving away their data and their information to the CCP. And I am not one of them, but I will stay on TikTok, and I do not think it's going to be banned on Sunday at all.
Yeah, I believe it's already not available for update, and I believe it's going to start like not being available for download. I know that Trump was trying to keep it in, but I don't know. Like, I'm hoping, honestly, now that I'm like, I get more views on TikTok, but at the same time, I'm like, God, if it's better for us, then block it, don't let it go through. But I mean, like he said, though, like, it's crazy because, that video is so real. We were just talking about that. Congress literally got together to move on TikTok. Out of everything that's happening, they got together and they agreed on TikTok out of all things.
And I think it's because of a universal understanding for China. And look, do not be afraid, Gabrielle. If it's banned, the free market's there, and you can just migrate to another.
My own account, my own social media. By the way, on Red Note, you guys can't even read it. Like, it's all in Chinese. And I downloaded it. I had to see what it was about. I haven't put any of my information, but y'all, I don't know what it's saying. It has, like, even your username is in Chinese. I'm like, okay.
Jeez.
It's hilarious. Some of the people, some of the Americans are putting in, in their title of their name is, I'm putting in my social security number to fast track the promotion for my Chinese spy. And they're making, there's Chinese Americans on TikTok that are standing in and actually like, hi, I am your Chinese spy. Sarah, quit messing with Billy. He's no good for you, girl. Joe in New York. I love it.
That's funny.
It makes me laugh.
And I this comment from 82 Maj, I was hoping that when TikTok is out, then maybe people are gonna come back to Instagram and it's gonna get better and I don't know, but I did a poll on my Instagram. It seems that people like Instagram more, but I did the poll on Instagram. So maybe, like, it's just because they're on Instagram. Maybe I should do one on TikTok too,
Man, I remember when I was a kid, all there was Facebook, and it's so funny how it's in MySpace. My wife talks about MySpace. It's just Facebook was it, and now it's grown in a good way. It's grown to all these different niches, which I just find so fascinating.
So cute. You said MySpace. What's
MySpace was it. I don't know why we left MySpace. Poor Tom. I mean, he was better than Mark Zuckerberg.
Tom was my first friend too on
he
MySpace.
He was one of our friends.
Even before that, you go to like AOL chat.
Yeah, so MySpace was
Google.
It was right before Javen, right before Facebook. You had a MySpace. You were able to put like a song, which you can do that on Instagram now. You were able to set it all up and customize it with your background. You can pimp your whole page out. This is where you started learning how to create websites, okay?
I will be okay with banning TikTok if they bring MySpace back. As long as MySpace has the reels and has the videos like Instagram and TikTok too. Oh, I'd be all for it.
Yep. There's this new song from Bad Bunny. He goes, I gave you a follow, you gave me a follow and I give you a follow back. And then you gave me a like, I gave you 2 likes. And now you put me on your top friends. And that reminded me of MySpace because you had a top 8. And if you were not on that top 8, like you were not cool. Okay, you had to be on the top 8. So yeah, MySpace was it. I don't know why we left MySpace for Facebook.
And when you were fighting with your girlfriends, you removed them out of your top. Like that's how you knew there was beef going on between your group is who's in your top profile or your top friends list.
Yep. Honestly, it was more fun than Facebook. I just gotta say.
That's right. Well, I remember Flare. I remember when Snapchat started up. I remember all this stuff. It just shows how old I'm getting. And my kids will never know. I had to walk my kids through like the Super Nintendo, the GameCube, because we got the Switch thing, and they just don't. What you what's this hard drive thing? And I was trying to explain to them like you had to blow on it and put it in. Remember the 64? I remember, and my oldest son does not get it.
That's hilarious. Or the CD.
Oh, the CD, yeah, and then you're wiping it with your shirt.
There is
and the GameCube ones were tinier. That was crazy.
There's no anxiety and like mental well-being when that dog laughed at you at Duck Hunt for missing the birds.
Duck Hunt.
You guys remember that? I mean, that dog. Sometimes I wanted to laugh right back at him, we'll say.
Well, guys, we are at that point into the show where we end it with a good old
rant and raves.
All right, this is where we all have one rant and rave before we end the show. We'll start with you, Gabriella.
That's my rant. We're going right in. Perfect transition is social media. My goodness, like I on TikTok, I gain followers. On Instagram, I lose followers. So I'm a little salty about this ban right now, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. You guys pray for me because I don't like being on X. Like I don't like it like scrolling wise, right? But I find myself on Instagram. Is it me? Is it me? Like, am I the one? Is something wrong with me? And so I don't know. I'm in this Instagram era where I love Instagram because I love being on there, but I hate posting on there because it doesn't do good at all.
No, for sure. We will send prayers your way. Oh, look. Cedric's sending prayers for you. So we got that up for you. All right, Javen.
My rant is an app we may know. It's called TikTok. I have no love for that app whatsoever. I'd be happy I'd be happy if China doesn't own it anymore. So this is my rant. So Elon Musk talked about he wants to buy TikTok. And my issue with that is that there's so many people who want to buy TikTok, but China has said no. And the one person China's okay buying TikTok is Elon Musk. That's a problem for me. Because if we refer to him as the co-president at the same time, and and China's okay with him owning this Chinese app, then China has something. They think they have something on this man and they can control him. And with him having so much power and influence with President Donald Trump, that's an issue for me. So that's my rant. It just worries me that China's so okay with Elon Musk buying TikTok from them.
That's a good rant and rave. I approve of that rant. Michelle?
I'm going to flip off the social media train because I love TikTok. And I think I'm a little, Gabriella, I missed the IG craze. I think I was too old when IG was founded. So it's only been around for 10 years, 12 years, something like that. And I was too old for it. So I think I missed the IG momentum. I like it, but I don't like it. But anyway, my rant is the Wisconsin GOP really irritated me because they have created an amendment, and I'm going to read it verbatim, that says no member of the executive committee may be employed or be a contractor for any 501c4 political action committee or independent expenditure committee, otherwise known as a 527, at any time during their tenure. Any conflict of interest at the same time of nomination and thereafter must be disclosed. So if an executive committee member becomes employed or contracted by such an organization at any point during their tenure, their resignation is automatic and the offices shall be vacated, which really kind of irritates me because why can't members of Congress or members of our state legislature sit on executive committees, which it goes back to your point of, you don't want people that are, in the legislature sitting on the same committees. But if you have a conflict of interest, then you don't sit on that committee. You just move to a different committee. You shouldn't be blanketed in withholding any executive committee. You just shouldn't sit on a committee that your C4 organization gets into, right? And I think they're trying to do it because Turning Point is coming into Wisconsin hot and heavy, and I think they're trying to. I don't know, but it irritates me. So that's my rant.
That is a good rant. Interesting. I did not know that. I wonder if other states have done that as well. That'd be interesting to know. My rant and rave is college football playoffs have been a bust this year. Not the games. The games are unpredictable. The viewers. Okay, so for those of you in Rio Linda that don't know, this is the first year of the 12 football playoffs, and the ratings are low. After we hyped it up when everyone especially on ESPN College Game Day, complained and moaned the entire time that we need 12. 4 wasn't enough. And so then it's low. Here's how they botched it. Okay. They put the games like in the middle of the week on like a December, like a Thursday, Friday, because they're too scared to go up against the NFL. They just need to put it on a Saturday and deal with it. Then they're 2 weeks apart. Okay. So I even occasionally have forgotten some. I'm like, what? And then the brackets were so weak and they got really crappy teams and it produces bad outcomes and players are sitting out. So the college football playoffs need to be totally revisited from NIL. I'm in favor of the legislation that Joe Manchin and Tommy Tuberville of Alabama had proposed as a bipartisanship. And I hope it comes back, and I hope Donald Trump is able to get something through with NIL this next year, because we need to restore college football to how it is. We need to put a cap on NIL. We need to make it a more structured thing when it comes to college football playoffs, weeks at like 1 week at a time. Every week in the NFL playoffs is literally 1 week, and then 2 weeks gap for the Super Bowl leading up to it. I'm fine if you want to do a 2 week gap, but don't forget that on Monday, January 20th, Martin Luther King Day and Donald Trump's inauguration, you also have a national championship game. If you could think of a stupider place and time to put the damn college football championship game. So somebody tell me, and also you want to know something else they botched? When they released the top 12 teams of for the first time, the rankings of who's going to be going to the playoffs, or at least for the upcoming event for it, it was on election night. Nobody watched. I was one of the few people that watched. Why on election night are you going to be like, hey, this is the big reveal, the first ever top 12 team? They have botched this so badly, and the regulations just need to. We do need to regulate a little bit on the NIL since the Supreme Court ruling, but that's my rant and rave in college football. It's been totally botched, but it's still time to be saved. Anyway, I love college football, but they ruined it.
Matt has been tonight.
Go Tigers.
Hey, speaking of sports, R.I.P. Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker,
oh yeah,
the legend, the man. He's one of the longest baseball announcers in history at 54 seasons. He's RIP at 90. We love him.
Hold on. Here we go. Takes me forever. I wanted to put this just a bit outside. That was his catchphrase for those of you who don't know. All right, folks. Well, thank y'all for joining. We appreciate it. We'll see y'all next week. It was a great show. And we'll go from here. I'm going to hide everybody now, and we will be tuning out.